Hello, welcome to Clowning Around again with me, Stroud, and lovely listeners and lovely viewers. You know, I tell you that I only interview really cool, interesting, good people. Well, let me tell you, lovely people, today is no exception, yes. And I hope that you've had a splendid week. And of course, lovely listeners and viewers, I hope you have found some time to laugh, think and play, because I know it does make you feel better. And today we are going to be exploring, clowning around again. Boo! We're going to be clowning around again. Impact with the fabulous, the very lovely, the deeply, deeply, deeply human and awesome Sarah Bennett-Nash. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the pod.
Wow, that is by far the best introduction I've ever had to a podcast. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And it's this sort of instrumental bit of singing before I say what it is that we're clowning around. It just happened. I think it was like, in the first 50 episodes of Clowning Around, the original series, I suddenly just started to get more and more joyful because I was like, how cool is this? I get to chat to awesome people and about awesome things that lots of people are interested in. So very exciting. Now, my listeners and my viewers, they do like to know, where in the world are my fabulous guests? So where are you today?
I'm in the very sunny, delightful West Hampstead in northwest London.
I mean, you're in northwest London. I'm in southwest London. You have sunshine. I have grey, and
I like to bring sunshine wherever I go. What can I say?
Oh, she's like, feel the sunshine, which is good. And those smart-eyed viewers will be going, well, it's good. It's good that it's sunny because your washing is out. And we're like, yes, it is, because we want to keep it real, Whereas if I was here, my washing, I'd be like, worried, And obviously as Brits, we're now very safe and secure because we've spoken about the weather. So it's good, right? Tick that box. Now, all of my regular listeners and viewers know that I always like to start the pod with a quick fire round of questions. Sometimes they're quick, sometimes they're not. That's okay, because it's my podcast, so I make up the rules, aka there aren't any. So now I know that you're a professional speaker, author, all-round awesome human being. So you don't need a picture of the scene. You can already imagine it. There it is. Sarah's on stage. The audience is giving her a massive round of applause. She's come in giving it a bow. We don't know why she did a bow before she started, but she did. So that's awesome. The lights change. There's smoke. I don't know why there's smoke. And strangely enough, there's a weird sofa, which I've come to join you on. And we're sitting down and it's lovely in our resplendent places in London. And I go, so Sarah, question number one, what does impact mean to you?
Impact for me is really personal. It can be the smallest little piece of the day that makes such a huge impact on someone. What do I mean by that? I mean the small stuff, like walking past someone on the street. In London, we're really antisocial typically, but I've made a point, particularly since COVID, of really acknowledging people on my street, just as a small example, and people that aren't typically well loved, like traffic wardens and the guys who are so instrumental to keeping our country going, the dustbin men, people that just get yelled at all day long. To me, that feels like I'm having an impact when I do those small things. Smiling at someone in a non-creepy way can really change someone's day. I think that's where it starts for me. And then recently I've been doing some really cool stuff that has bigger impact. And that's all leaning into the book, More Money, More Life. I've been doing some workshops around money specifically and how we can help sharing conversations that really enable people to go off and feel confident enough to manage their money in a bit of a different way.
I love that. And you're so right. There are so many people that it's so quick and easy just to walk past who are doing some really important stuff. And it's so funny you say about traffic wardens. So I used to have a driveway. I've moved house, so I had a driveway. And one of the local traffic wardens, he obviously knows all of kind of the local cars, right? And then I was having some work done on the house. And then I parked my car in a residence permit bit. And between 10 and 11, that's the one bit in the day that you can't park, right? And I may have forgotten when I parked the car in the morning when I dropped my son off that I'd parked it. And suddenly I was like, I'm going to get a ticket. Oh, no, I'm going to get a ticket, quick. And I literally legged it in a heroic manner. Just imagine a small little clown running across southwest London. That's what I was doing. And I got there and there was this traffic warden who I had never had any interaction with, bar saying morning to. And I was there and I was like, I'm so sorry. And he was just looking at my car and he went, well, I know that you're local. And so I was trying not to give you a ticket because officially I have to. but I was trying to hopefully, so I've just gone round the block a couple of times so that I didn't have to give you a ticket because I figured you'd remember you can't park here. And I just went, oh, thank you. That is so kind. And I'm so grateful. And he just went, well, yeah, but you're local. I'm not here to penalise locals. I'm here to penalise people that don't pay attention that red routes, you can't park in. And I just was like, traffic wardens get such a bad name, but they're doing stuff that is part of our society. And it's those little things, isn't it? Those supposedly superfluous interactions actually are the things that really matter. Like you and I have both written books and we speak around the world and we do all of this stuff, but actually we can have an impact on a day-to-day basis, right?
That's what we say. And that hello saved you 60 quid. So
yes. Yep. I mean, literally, win-win, saved himself 60 quid, smiled a lot at this man and, had a great time. So there we go. That was the answer to question number one on the quickfire round. As you can tell, it might not be quickfire at all because today, obviously, I'm going to go off on tangents, lovely listeners. So question number 2, what song is Impact?
Oh, they're the big ones. They're the ballads. I would go Beyonce, anything nice. Beyonce, pretty much. I'm also a big Taylor Swift fan, obviously. I've got 2 girls who are 6 and 9, so everything Taylor Swift. And one of my girls is called Ophelia. And so that has a big impact on me on many different levels. And people actually text me when they listen to it as well. So I think that's really lovely how that sort of comes round. Don't ever Google Chloe songs because they're a bit more inappropriate. And I wouldn't really want to be texted on that about Chloe. But there we go.
But there is a song called Ophelia. Who's that by?
Taylor Swift.
Okay. I mean, I like Taylor Swift, but I don't know her entire catalogue. So I am going to, with your permission, Sarah, there is a Clowning Around Again Spotify playlist. I'm going to be adding Ophelia by Taylor Swift onto that, because I think Taylor Swift needs another stream. Let's face it, I don't think she's successful enough. I think she definitely needs another couple of 100 streams. Like, I love her, but yes. So Ophelia by Taylor Swift is now on the playlist, which of course you can download if you want to. It's a playlist of the most eclectic songs. So there we go. Question number 3. If Impact was a country, what country would it be?
That is such a great question. I'd love to say the UK. I do think we do some great things from the UK. I think the US probably is more topical right now. On a negative basis, they're really having a tough time globally. On a positive basis, I would go with some of the Asian countries, like Bali as an example. It's the home for sanctuary for people who just want to go and do something a bit different with their lives and explore some different routes. And I think on a positive impact basis, they're very quietly powerful, I would say, on the world balance.
I love that. And I think you're only the second person to ever say Bali. So I like that. And I really hear you. It's like, come on, UK. Yay. And of course, we are doing some awesome stuff, but also, yes, let's go with the quietly impactful Bali, because I like that. And it's a nice little thing in my map as well, which is good. And question number 4, not that anybody's counting, but it is question number 4. I'm actually on track. Who makes you think of impact? Who makes you think of impact?
I love the Obamas. I think what Michelle did for the First Lady whilst Barack was in power, I just think it was absolutely incredible. And she reached so many people across every level of America and the world. But I thought that was hugely impactful. And they're still quietly doing a lot of this work still, which has a massive impact on real communities. And I think that's something to really hold, on a pedestal and really think, how can we recreate some of that and do a bit better ourselves? I think she's amazing.
I love that. And I don't know if you've seen on Channel 4, there's it's a series and it's called First Ladies. Have you seen it? It's got Viola Davis and she's playing Michelle Obama. And then there's a couple of other quite well-known people. I want to say Gillian Anderson, but I might be wrong. And it's basically tracking, there's 3 first ladies that they each play. And this drama sort of intersperses all of their different experiences and how, had it not been for Mrs. Ford, whose name I can't remember, how Michelle Obama wouldn't have been able to do the same things. And it's an amazing drama. So if you fancy a good drama, I'd highly recommend that. It's on Channel 4, obviously on 4 on demand as well. There you go. Top tip that I didn't know I was going to share. See, Sarah, you're so good. You're having an impact on me. I'm now suggesting things to watch on telly. Question number five. There's still smoke in the arena and people are loving it. They're giving you a massive round of applause and clapping. And we're bowing some more, which I think is always important in a midway of a conversation. Just have a bow. Let's do it. If impact was an object, what object would it be?
I love the idea of a ball because a ball bounces back. And I think that can be hugely impactful for people to observe. We all think life's linear and that success is always just going to be straightforward. But actually, what you don't see often is the bounce back. So many people go through atrocities and trials and tribulations. You don't really see that sort of played out on Instagram, do you? You see all the good stuff. And I think there's something in that bounce back. I've certainly bounced back from a few interesting situations and will continue to do so for no doubt, I'm sure, for a long time.
So what I've just learned is that apparently on Instagram, it's not all of everybody's life. Is this true? So we only see the glossy side. I mean, once again, other platforms are, of course, available. But I love that idea. And actually, it was funny, this weekend, it was a bank holiday here in the UK, and I went off on my motorbike. That makes me sound like I'm really cool. I have a 125 and I've still got my L plate, and I absolutely scare the living bejesus when I go over 50 miles an hour. And if you want to see the true story of how awful I first found riding a motorbike, do come and see my show at Edinburgh. But we got to this beautiful kind of big old manor house in some random part of the UK. And there were these kids, and they were doing that thing that I used to do as a kid, and they were just throwing a ball and catching it, throwing a ball and catching it, throwing a ball and catching it. And I just kind of stood and watched them, not for a weird amount of time, just for a moment. I just thought, God, it's so powerful, isn't it? Because even though you think that you know where the ball is going to come back to, it will always do some weird angle here and there. And actually, it's just that thing of like, you drop it and you pick it up and you go again. And I think that, and as somebody who's had, I've had a couple of businesses fail, we've had different experiences and things that impact us. It is that thing of, in essence, life is a bit like a bouncy ball, isn't it? And it's like, sometimes you're going to drop it. Sometimes it might even deflate, but you can always, somebody else can bring a pump or a little, I'm trying to find, what's the word, sticker, like one of those little things. And it's just that thing of these things that do impact us, and how hard we throw things and how available and how open we are to catching can have a real impact. And I went off on a ball analogy that I did not know I was going to go on, Sarah, and I don't think when you clicked join to come and be on my podcast, you were like, Em is definitely going to go off on a ball tangent. That's definitely where we're going to go when we're talking about impact. Yeah, you might recognise me from such big stages, and now we're talking about a bloody bouncy ball. Brilliant.
I love that analogy, though, because, I too have like vivid memories of driving my parents absolutely bonkers, playing tennis on the side of the house. But actually, it's hours and hours and hours and hours of practice doing that repetitive nature, making all the mistakes that makes you good at something. And you kind of lose that, I think, a little bit as you get older. When you're younger, you just have a lot more tolerance to do that, don't you? You just don't get bored of it. Hours. But as you get older, you just don't have time for this stuff. So you become more impatient and want everything to happen at Instagram pace, like overnight, the 60 million in 6 months nonsense. So yeah, I think that's a really valuable analogy to like hold on to.
Yeah. And I mean, all joking aside with learning to ride a motorbike, it's really good to be a beginner again and go, I'm not necessarily going to be good at everything. I mean, also there is the addition of I could die, but that's another story for another time. It's quite an intense one. You could just take up, I don't know, knitting, all of these different things, which leads us perfectly. It's almost like I've thought this through. How do you play?
Oh, my girls. Yeah, they brought out a really lovely, renewed sense of playfulness with me. I think I'd lost that. I guess I was like 20 years into corporate at that point before having small people, and sort of lost a little bit of that muscle. God, I must have been so boring. Well, maybe I still am, but they've brought something out of me again where I just laugh a lot more and I can get on the floor with them and play and imagine and not feel stupid. Whereas at the start, when I first had them, I wouldn't really enjoy so much playing horses with them or whatever. But now I just absolutely love it. I think it's so you drop that sense of inhibition and, you're obviously in a safe space with them and it just sort of naturally easier to flow. Whereas in the corporate space, you wouldn't necessarily do that without everyone thinking you're absolutely mad as a box of frogs. So that's been a wonderful experience for me.
I love that. And, and it's fascinating, as a lot of my work is about helping people, playful performance and things like that. And it's fascinating because once as adults, we remember and we reconnect with play, suddenly you go, yes, this was how I learnt to walk, how I learnt what I like. This is learnt how I create. And yet in the corporate world, it's like, must be serious. If we are not serious and hitting KPIs, we are not, and we must put this mask on. And what I find fascinating, having worked with lots of leadership teams around the world, it's that thing of once people allow themselves to remember and give themselves the permission to play, strangely enough, when you play more, you come up with better ideas. And when you play more, you're actually more inventive. And if you play more, people are happier. And if people are happier, lo and behold, they probably perform better. But it's quite often the kids, and it's kids that remind, like your experience, it's like reminding you that, of course, you know how to play because you were a child yourself. And, for me, to play is to be human. And it doesn't matter where we are in the world. Every single one of us plays. Of course, we play in different ways. There's no wrong or right way to play. But I think there's something for me about sort of allowing ourselves to remember that to play is to be present. And when we play, everything is possible. Doesn't mean that the rest of the world falls away and, the hardship isn't there. But, play is wonderful, which is one of the reasons that I do what I do, right? So very good. Again, I've gone off on a tangent because you are very impactful. It's almost like we should talk about it. So with that in mind, how do you look after you?
Well, I've neglected that a lot along the years, I would say, but I'm getting better at it, having had a bit of a health scare, and realizing actually you do need to do that first. That phrase of putting your oxygen mask on first is actually something you should really listen to, because your body is the vessel that enables you to do everything. And without it, you're a bit stuffed, really. So I'm a runner. I love running. I love cycling. I love being outdoors. So my go-to is to always go up to Hampstead Heath and just get out into nature as much as possible. And if I can combine running and that, perfect for me. But I think that's just going back to real childhood memories where I grew up around Sherwood Forest, and it's just so, I don't know, it's something very cathartic about getting into that environment, switching all the nonsense off and actually just focusing on like movement and having a time.
Yeah, completely. And for my listeners that aren't in the UK, yes, Sherwood Forest really is real. Robin Hood perhaps less so, but Sherwood Forest is an actual place. Sarah didn't just kind of go, and I go back to my childhood magical place of Sherwood with Robin and all of his no, but Sherwood Forest is a real place. I'm very aware that I have lots of people that don't listen in the UK. And Hampstead Heath is obviously a very famous part of London, which is very beautiful and things like that. And it's interesting that you talk about the sort of the running and that connecting with nature, because I've recently kind of really got back into running. I've always kind of been a runner. And what I've really noticed this year of running is that I'm really loving running with nothing, like no headphones, no phone, So I have my little watch that tells me how far I've got because I'm competitive and I like to know that I'm still running and I've done at least 5K, otherwise it's not a proper run. But there's something really lovely about allowing myself just to be and be in the world, as opposed to, right, I'm going for a run. This is this moment that I must listen to a podcast, or quick, must be on Audible, must consume more information. And for me, that's very much a thing about me looking after me, not having other voices and just being present, Which leads me beautifully on to the next question. Yeah, it's question number, I think it's 9, but no one's counting. Obviously, I know you're very good with numbers, so just bear with me. If I go back and it's 8, that's fine. It's a podcast. What or who makes you laugh?
Well, you make me laugh. We've laughed
good.
a lot already, which is
indeed.
Fantastic. I'm a big Michael McIntyre fan. I think he's
such a big fan. I can't say his name. I love it. I love Michael McIntyre.
That one.
Yeah.
I think because he's local to me, I think I've got that affinity to him, and I can see a lot of what he talks about. But I just think he takes very situational humour and it just applies to everyday life, which I love. And then I'm sort of hesitating because I do love Ricky Gervais. Now, I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but again, he's local. I just think he challenges people to think more broadly about life and not get so sucked into the press, which is so important. I might not believe in everything he says, but I think having him challenge us like that is really, really important. And then I think the other gentleman who is terrible that it's all men. I think Catherine Brum, Catherine?
Catherine Ryan?
Ryan.
There we go.
Yes, I
I
can
was like,
picture.
4-letter name. It's not Brum. That's called Birmingham. Let's go with Ryan. Fortunately, I am here as the comic and the coach to definitely help you translate. This is what Sarah needs in her life. So whenever she's going to be doing big speaking gigs, I will be there just going, Ryan, other words. Catherine Ryan is indeed very funny. She is a very good, funny
Brilliant
comedian.
Yes, I feel responsible to bring a woman into that conversation as well, because there aren't enough women comedians, I don't think. But yeah, she's also amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's really fair with what you said about Ricky Gervais, because ultimately, you know, there's lots of comics, right? And not everybody's going to make everybody laugh. That's very logical. And I truly believe, as somebody that does comedy, I think it's really important that we utilize the craft of comedy to challenge indeed how people think, you know. And if I sort of look at my show and how I craft my shows, you know, I'm a kind comic, but there are also moments where there is complete silence, which is planned, where I know what I'm saying is challenging people to think about things from a different perspective. And I think as comedians, I think that is part of our job. And there's a reason why clowns and fools and comedians have been in society for as long as time began, because I really believe that we're like the observers of life, and we use humour to say what we see is going on. And that is very, very important. In fact, that's the tradition of clowning. You know, it's using kindness and humour to go, hello, what's going on? You know, and it's not surprising that, you know, Trump, you know, got very annoyed with one of the American late night hosts because he was using humour. And it was challenging in a way that nobody else could. So, you know, it's very pertinent. Oh, we've gone political into comedy and all of this stuff. Who knew? We've gone from bouncing balls to comics, you know, to washing. So far, we've already covered a lot. And if you haven't followed with us, just go back to the beginning. So the final of the quick fire, which haven't been that particularly quick, but no one cares, questions, is what have you been thinking about in the last couple of days?
New ways of doing things. So I've got really good basis now, foundation within my business, but I'm always thinking about what can I introduce into the business, which is going to be new and innovative and keep the team engaged and fun for the team, but also give us a bit of breadth. I think that's really important. So I'm always a person that likes the shiny thing. So I definitely have to be a bit careful with that. But I do like innovation. I love that space. So I have been spending a bit of time in that place, just strategizing a bit more, thinking about the dimensions of what we can add in that's new. And yeah, we've got some great ideas, which the team are going to be thrilled about.
I know. I mean, as somebody, you know, so I have a team of various people that work within Team A. And I'm like, I've got a great idea. And you can literally hear them going, here she goes again. She's come up with another new idea. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a great idea. I've not done this before. And bless my amazing, I've got the most amazing sort of VA who basically makes my life happen. And he's worked with me for 15 years and he's just like, and he's just really calm. And then a couple of days later, he'll go, have you thought, oh yeah, no. Okay, let's do this. So that's very good. So there we go. That is the end of our quickfire quiz. The venue has disappeared. The whole audience have given a massive round of applause. We've bowed again a couple of times. Thank you very much. And look, we're now back in Hampstead in Southwest London. And there's so many things. So did you know when you were in the corporate world, had you already got a sort of an inkling within your heart and your soul that wasn't going to be your own identity? Did you already sort of know that?
Oh, definitely. It became my identity, I think, corporate for the best part of a decade. And then you go through these lovely life transitions, don't you? And then it started to really slowly ebb away from my values and who I became as a person, which I think is better. That came quite corrosive after a period of time, you know, when you're in love with something and it's just been so fulfilling. And I did so much in corporate, which was phenomenal. But then there are definitely the politics that start to grind away at you. You know, that's time that you've got to start thinking about something else. Don't leave it too late, I think. But, you know, it's kind of corporate is brilliant in so many ways. I mean, it's a gift to have a paycheck drop into your account every month, isn't it? And we know.
I don't know. I've never had a job. So, okay.
Lucky you. Hey, in the entrepreneurial world, you just make it up as you go along, don't you? Which is phenomenal. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, and it's really interesting, isn't it? And I think, did you know, because I think that's one of those moments when you make that decision, having worked with lots of people that have left corporate and then have set up their own business. Were you really bricking it? Or were you like, no, I've got this?
Probably was a bit overconfident, if I'm honest.
Okay.
When I had such a long lead time for me leaving, because for a while I thought I was going to go, and I was bricking it. And so it sort of elongated it for a lot longer. And I had young kids at the time as well. So I don't think that would have been the best time to have left, honestly. But by the time I left, I'd been running a side hustle for a number of years. I kind of knew what I was doing in that business, and I was really confident in my own skill set. And I think that's probably the best gift that I could have given myself. It's just making sure you get the feedback from clients on an ongoing basis. And that was going really, really well. So when I left, I knew that that could be a really good basis point. What I didn't really account for was the slow burn of building a business. I thought it was going to be, okay, now I've got all of this time to focus on it. It's going to build exponentially fast. And it didn't quite materialize like that. It was a much slower process. And now you speak to people, now I'm a lot more established. You speak to people and they go, oh yeah, of course, it was always going to be like that. No, didn't no one ever think of telling me this? I left. What?
It is funny as well, isn't it? Because I think, especially in the corporate world, there's so many things that are, having worked with lots of people in corporate, that's brilliant. And you've got all these systems that are in place and something goes wrong and you can phone IT and there's a system and all of this stuff. And I think, when people do then fully shift into entrepreneurship and, and wanting to make an impact and do a difference, it's like, oh, this doesn't happen overnight, and it's that very funny thing, isn't it? Of like, strangely enough, it's like somebody said to me, they're like, "You're very good." And I was like, I have been doing this for 20 years. And they're like, oh, maybe that might explain it. And it's that thing of that idea of pace and that idea of instant success stories. And of course, there's always an exception to the rule and somebody does one thing and they stratospheric success. But that's like 0.0.01%. Most people that you suddenly see who are making an impact in whatever world it is, they have been grafting. They have been thinking. They have been working on it for quite a long period, which is kind of what you'd want, because if you're getting somebody to come and help you do something, you kind of want them to know what they're doing rather than just being very good at marketing, for example. So who in your entrepreneurial journey, who's had an impact on you and how you run your business, your team?
I think my clients have been massively impactful for me. And I've always been so fortunate to work with phenomenal people who've been really good at providing feedback. I'm very open at asking for it. I've never shied away from that. Even if I know it's going to be a bit contentious and difficult, I've always gone, how can I get better? And I think that has just been really instrumental for moving me forwards, because you're never going to be great at everything when you first start a business. There's definitely, it's definitely a growing process, isn't it? But I think my clients have definitely been really instrumental in that process for me. Mostly good, I would say. And then I think the other really impactful thing, and again, I think corporate sort of created a bit of a cushion where you predominantly working with people who you just automatically trust because you're all part of the fold. But I have had a couple of clangers with suppliers that have really thrown me off, where you're like, whoa, man, I've committed to this now, and this is absolutely not what we've agreed, but we're in it. And now it's really contentious. And those are difficult, stressful situations, but in there, they teach you a lot, and you can pull out the bits where you go, okay, I'm never going to do that again. So I think that has been a bit of a growing pain as well.
For sure. And it is both ways, isn't it? It's sort of like, oh, I think this person's going to do that. I mean, I genuinely cannot tell you the amount of money I have thrown at different people to do with marketing. Like literally, I might have gone, here you go. Oh, have some more of my minute. Oh, there you go. Oh, look, nothing's happened. And that's not me anti-marketing in any way, shape or form. But my word, there's a lot of people who are very good at marketing themselves, but not perhaps very good at marketing other people. And so I'm curious because, you've said, you've written a book recently. Did you write the book because you wanted to have a greater impact? Because I know for me, when I wrote my first one, and my second one is currently out with agents as we speak. So I know when I wrote my first book, a lot of it was because I wanted the creative process and I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could actually write a book, because as a dyslexic and somebody who was told you can't write, writing a book was quite a big thing for me. But also the thing that has surprised me, and like Lessons from a Clown came out a few years ago, and it's been very joyful, so I think I'm more conscious of it now, is it has an impact that ripples a lot longer than me standing in a room. And, you know, I was having a conversation with this woman in Texas last week, never met her before. And she was like, I was like, oh, so, you know, it's really great. You've got in touch with me. How can I help? And she literally pulled out a copy of Lessons from the Clown. She went, I already feel like I know you. Oh. And I was like, you're in Texas and you're reading my book. She went, that's why I wanted to talk to you. Wow. And so for you with your book, was it because you wanted to, impact a wider audience? Tell us about that.
Totally. As I was leaving corporate, Ron was just like, you are mad. Climbed to, an MD, which is a reasonably big deal in banking. And it was quite a big thing to leave that after 20 years. I've got every single flipping qualification to the wazoo for finance. And I didn't want to lose all of that. And so anchoring that in was actually a really important segue to me leaving. And that was the first thing that I focused on, was actually writing the book when I left. And what I've loved about that process is that I've taken what I think is way overcomplicated in terms of what people talk about out in the market around finance, personal finance, and really just made it really simple, and then added some really important bits that actually quite a lot of people don't talk about, which is a lot about the psychology of money and how your family lineage and your history can really have a huge impact on how you think and do and act around money. And bringing that together, I have the technical knowledge from the finance sector, but I've also had a really personal experience around how money has impacted me over the years, having had some really sort of difficult, I don't want to say traumas because that sounds very dramatic, but but having had some difficult circumstances through my family history around money. And I now know through just doing the workshops, getting out and talking about that, it is hugely impactful, because particularly in the UK, we're really rubbish at talking about money. It's this big taboo topic. There's tons of shame around it, and people really struggle to open up. And no one's saying, I need to know your salary or anything like that. But just having the conversation more broadly around the importance of money, how you can bring it into your life in a more sort of way that flows and shouldn't be difficult, but also just socialize it a lot more so we feel more comfortable having these conversations with each other. It's been brilliant. And so many people have said to me, I don't even talk to my partner about money. I mean, my partner doesn't know how much I earn. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just that level of guardedness over money is really real, and it can keep you stuck in a prison, I think. So yeah, I have really enjoyed those conversations, and I think it's needed in that market, but also in schools as well. I think
completely. And I mean, I so wholeheartedly agree, and I think, within myself, my main work on myself for the last year has been becoming more financially and money literate, and different systems and things like that. And I think you're so right. The shame cycles that go on there, the challenges from families. And actually, she's coming on the pod later on in the year. I've got the founder of Go Henry coming on the pod. Ooh. And one of the things that she was talking about in her keynote at Women in Payments, which was an event that I was speaking at as well, was that Go Henry have been lobbying government to make sure that financial education was included at schools. And we're not talking about, creating massive spreadsheets, but just that financial literacy, because actually if we don't talk about it when we're kids and we don't educate when we're kids, and especially us Brits, I mean, it's that thing is like, we don't talk about money, we don't talk about death. And what are two things that we are all going to struggle with is people dying and money at some point in our lives, whether you've got, there's challenges. I've met lots of wealthy people who have massive challenges about what do they do with their wealth. I've met people who have no money. Well, it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of wealth and abundance. It's the mindset piece, it's the understanding, and and I think that was one of my main reasons of asking you, because I think the work that you're doing to help lots of people be able to talk about money is so impactful and it's so needed. And so that's me giving you a round of applause. So there we go. So well done. But it really, truly is, because anything that removes shame, and, and I've spent a lot of my professional life working with awesome people who have amazing stories, who go, yeah, but I'm not, yeah, but I can't, my story's not. And it's shame in one way or another. And that comes out in one way or another. And I think the work that you're doing, going out and talking about to get rid of that shame, because there shouldn't be shame around money. It should just be, it's a thing that we all have. It's a thing that we all would probably like more of, but it's actually just that thing about understanding it. And no doubt that's why your work is having the impact that it is. When you're doing your workshops, what surprised you about the impact that your work has?
Some of the stories that have come out during those discussions are just staggering to me, that we are able to get a group of people together who can talk about their personal experiences and be really vulnerable with other people who they just never even met in that room together. And it's really quite emotional. And that, I think, has been really impactful for me, just seeing that, like some of the stories. I mean, maybe that's the next book I should write, because there are people that have had life and death experiences, who've been in comas and had like all of these really powerful pieces around how they release the money blocks and things come up. It's just, it's been absolutely mind blowing. And I think the point I made earlier around people being really guarded around money and not having regular conversations with their partners, I think that is more prevalent than we think it is. And actually that creates quite a lot of controversy within a relationship, when we've almost like got secrets within your relationships, and it's all very personal. And I think that's probably why some people do find it difficult to talk about it. But I think the vulnerabilities and the personal stories that have been shared have just been completely mind-blowing for me.
And I think you're right. Yeah, and it's that thing, isn't it? Because I think when people are in a safe space and they realize, oh, I can actually talk about this and I can move, because by the very act of talking about it, you're starting to, the shame only lives in silence. Shame exists when it's in our heads, right? Shame is that whole thing. And, and I remember like in my 30s, I used to be like, I can't tell people that I had a business that failed. People will. And it was like, of course you can. How many people who have run businesses have businesses that fail? It's not that I failed, it's a business fail. And I think that's the thing. And it doesn't surprise me that as you hear these stories, that no doubt impacts your heart and your head. It then will impact your work, potentially your next book. We heard it here first. Sarah's going to write a new book about stories. Welcome to Clowning Around. We get all of the exclusives that we didn't know we were going to get. Neither did she. But it's that beautiful thing of going, when you create those beautiful spaces, that's where the depth of your work, I think, can really have the impact, because actually people can share and go, I'm not by myself. And, the fact that you've written a book, there is a way where somebody can go, I can read this book. And there's a safe way of me doing it. And maybe the book might be the vehicle that I now talk to my partner, because actually we should be talking around it. And that must be, I'm guessing that's one of the reasons, other than having two young girls that will obviously wake you up singing Taylor Swift, shake it off all the time. And you're like, all right, kids, I've got to go and have impact. But yes, let's shake it off first, But is that the driving force behind what you do?
Oh, massively so. I think in corporate, what I realized is that my go-to is to always be that person that helps. And that's why my first business I set up in coaching, because I just loved that aspect of it. And I think if I'm a giver by nature, then you're always going to get a lot of joy out of that. It's like I explain this to the girls, in that it's pure selfishness. When you give a gift, it is often a lot more joyful for the person that gives than actually the person receiving it. It's just lovely to watch that unfold. And that is exactly the case for me.
And I mean, that just seems like a beautiful way. So to have impact, sometimes just the idea of giving a gift, it brings us back to our traffic warden. It's like a circular story that we've managed to share that we didn't know we were going to share. And a bouncing ball that is also circular. Oh my gosh, it just works, Sarah. And so how do people find you, follow you? Where's the best place for them to go, other than, try and find a runner in Hampstead, which would be quite freaky for you?
and mad woman running across the heath. So you can find me on all the socials. My handle is Sarah Bennett-Nash. So predominantly on LinkedIn, but also on all of the other lovely channels. And my website is www.sarahbennettnash.com.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure, when I say I will, my fabulous team will make sure that all the links are, of course, in the show notes so you can find and get in touch with Sarah. I knew today was going to be joyous talking to you because you are a joyous human being who is creating awesome impact. So thank you so much for coming on Clowning Around again with me, Em Stroud. I have loved it. I hope you have a splendid rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so much, Em. It's been fabulous.
You're welcome. Ah, the lovely Sarah. Goodness me. I was just chatting to her as we finished recording and we were just talking about impact and, the state of the world and how we can do various things for ourselves. And, if this has landed with you, which I hope it has, I hope that conversation landed with you. I think the thing that's really sort of mooching around the back of my mind about this is that in a world that feels so out of control in so many ways, and in a world that feels challenging and divided and angry, let's face it, actually, each of us can have impact and each of us can be positive. And I'm not suggesting that we all have to kind of be running around going, woohoo, this is me creating impact. No, not suggesting that. But it's the simple things, isn't it? It's the simple things. It's the having a smile at somebody. It's the human connection. It's the allowing ourselves just to be proud of what we're good at, and maybe leaning more into being, doing the stuff that we're good at. And I think there's something about, we all do have impact by our behavior. And sometimes, and this is something that I've been really contemplating over the last little while, sometimes a lot of our behavior is completely unconscious and we don't know about it, right? It's the Freud thing. Yes, you heard it here first from the clown. I'm now talking about Freud. I don't know much, so I'm just going to gloss over the fact that I've just referenced Freud. But the whole what's it called, the ice thing, commonly known as the ice cube. No, it's not an ice cube, iceberg. That's the word. There we go. Now, just in case you think that I edit this and this is not all done live, you've just now remembered that this really is. But it's the iceberg thing. You've got all the stuff that we see going on, and then there's all the different levels of unconsciousness. And actually, sometimes it's our unconscious that really impacts us. About how we behave or how we respond and things. And that's the stuff that we can be in charge of. By being curious about who we are and by being curious about, okay, why did that enrage me, annoy me, inspire me? And it's just that thing of going, maybe it was that impacted me. Yeah, maybe it was that I thought this that now still impacts how I show up. Or maybe that is why. And that for me is kind of one of the main reasons I do this podcast, right? Because every time I speak to somebody, it gets me thinking about something from a different perspective. It enables me, and I think it enables all of us just to kind of go, oh, why did that conversation impact me in my heart? Or why did I go off and not think about something? And that's what's really interesting, I think, when you think about impact. It's that thing of going, what's really going on for me? How am I responding to stuff? And then how is that then having an impact on others? Because ultimately, there's loads of stuff that we can't control. We can't control. There's a big orange man in charge of the White House right now. We can't control that, especially those of us that aren't American. Literally have no influence on that situation at all. But we can have impact with our kindness. We can have impact with our grace. We can have impact with how we show up, how we support others, how we look after each other. And we can have impact by how curious we are when we don't understand why people might be thinking or voting differently to us. As I'm recording this, it's the local elections in the UK today. And I think there's so much sort of entrenchment of I'm right, you're wrong. And that's one of the reasons that I think we're in the world that we're in right now, because we're not allowing our curiosity. And so therefore the impact is that we are just staying in our own lanes and there's no care and consideration about what's going on for other people. So that for me is where I've taken Sarah's conversation today. And that's how that's going to sit with me for the rest of the day. So thanks again for listening to Clowning Around with me, Em Stroud, or watching indeed. It's still new because obviously previous Clowning Around, before it was Clowning Around again, I didn't do it visually, but now I am. Oh, it's very exciting. Modern day technology. Amazing. So I hope this has landed. If it has, please do like, share, comment. Let me know what this has meant to you. I love to find out how this is impacting you. Gosh, it just works, doesn't it? Yes, and of course this week, dear lovely people of Clowning Around again, do make sure that you laugh, think and play more because you know it will help you feel better. I've been Em Stroud and we'll catch up next week. Take good care. Bye for now.